Hare Krishna. So today we will discuss verse 69, 69, chapter 2. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam. Tasyam Shagahti Samyami. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam. Tasyam Shagahti Samyami. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam. Tasyam Shagahti Samyame. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune.
Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam.
Yanisha
Samyami. Jagarti Bhutani.
Yasyam Bhutani.
Sanisha Pashyato Mune.
Sanisha Pashato Mune.
Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam.
Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam.
Tasyam Jagarti Samyami.
Tasyam Shagahti Samyame.
Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani.
Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani.
Anisha Bhashyato Mune.
Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Tasyam Shagahti Samyame. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani.
Pasyato Mune.
Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam.
Tasyam Jagati Samyami.
Tasyam Shagahti Samyame. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam. Tasyam Shagahti Samyame. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune. Yanisha Sarva Bhutanam. Tasyam Shagahti Samyame. Yasyam Shagahti Bhutani. Sanisha Pashato Mune. Word for word translation. Yeah. What? Nisa is night. Sarva all. Bhutanam of the living entities. Tasham in that. Jagarti is wakeful. Samyami, the self-controlled. Yasyam, in which Jagrati are awake. Bhutani, all beings. Sa, that is. Nisha, night. Pasyata, for the introspective. Muni, sage. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. For this night for all beings is a time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Please repeat. What is night for all beings?
What is night for all beings?
It's a time of awakening for the self-controlled.
Is the time of awakening for self-control.
And the time of awakening for all beings.
And the time of awakening for all beings.
It's night for the introspective state.
And the time of the introspective state.
Commentary by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective stage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep of self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in a sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reaction. Om Ajnana Timanasya Shanam Salam Rakai Sakshan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chichetaya Manobistam Staptam Yena Bhuttale Skramrupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shigo Shiyuda Padakamalam Shigom Vaishnavamsam Shirupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sadhivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakanalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Stam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandha Jatpate Gopesha Goka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanya Sutta Devi Pranamama Haripe Pankha Kautabhisha Kripa Sunvaivasha Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini. Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskatyai Visatarni. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So this verse tells us that the materialistic people and the devotees are quite different. More than 32 years ago, I was in a little ashram in a small temple in the Flemish town of Ghent. And we were in the middle of the city, and it was summer. A summer day in Belgium is like a day of today. That's summer. That it gets to 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know, it's 65 Fahrenheit or something. That's our summer in Belgium. But anyway, we were in the middle of the city. And straight at the other side of the street was a nightclub. And we would get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was summer, so we opened the windows, let fresh air enter. We opened the windows, and at the other side, the nightclub, they opened the door. They opened the door, and the first thing that comes out is a lot of smoke. And then people came out who were walking not very straight. They were going to sleep. We were getting up. So it's a different lifestyle, the devotee and the materialistic people. That Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, different intelligence. You have different kinds of IQ. Materialistic people can have a very high materialistic IQ, but spiritual IQ is 0. And that's a problem, that one can be spiritually intelligent or materially intelligence. Different intelligence, that materialistic intelligence is used for getting more and more sense gratification, enjoyment of the body. That you become a master in it, how to exploit this material world. In the university, you can get a master's in business administration, master in how to put up structures and procedures with intelligence to exploit this world with the least effort, get the greatest result. Anyway, I also study economics. I got a training as a chartered accountant. So I know a lot of business, but that will not help us in a matter of self-realization. We need a different kind of intelligence. How to get spiritual intelligence? That's a good question. And what is spiritual intelligence? And why do we need spiritual intelligence? In the next verse, here, 270, it's described, the actions, the inner actions are described of someone with spiritual intelligence. Apoyamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pavishanti atvat tatvat kamayam pavishanti sarve sasanti napnoti nakami. So this verse explains the inner experiences of a devotee. The previous verse was external. Day becomes night, night becomes day. We get up in the morning, take a bath, and we have our meditation. The others are sleeping. And in the night, we go early to bed. we know the night, then the mode of ignorance is passion, is prominent. The early morning is goodness, peace. But the materialistic persons, they want passion, enjoyment. But that's external. 270 speaks about the internal. Internal means how they deal with the mind, how they deal with the subtle body. Subtle body has 3 elements: mind, intelligence. And if mind intelligence is contaminated with the mode of passion and ignorance, it creates a false ego, which thinks I'm the body. But the mind means thinking, feeling, willing, and the intelligence. Intelligence means discrimination, what to do, what not to do. And a materialistic person, because it says here, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is ever filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So desires pop up into our mind, but in the mind of a materialistic person and in the mind of a spiritual person, desires come up. We are in the material world. So many desires will come up that but a devotee, one who is trained in devotional service and who has spiritual intelligence, the first lesson is, I'm not a mind. Bhagavad Gita explains yoga. Yoga is meant to control the mind. What does it mean, controlling the mind? 2 questions. If you can control the mind, then you are not a mind, right? Otherwise, you cannot control. And then the question is, what is controlling the mind if you are not a mind? That's a very important question. But a devotee does not does not identify with the mind. Most people think, I'm my thinking, feeling, willing, that's me. That's called the conditioned state. Liberated state is when we control the mind. That's the beginning of liberation. But to control the mind, you must learn to observe the mind first, not identify with it. Observing the mind. That you can only do when you have spiritual power. If you don't have any spiritual power and spiritual intelligence, you cannot do that. I will explain this more deeper based on Bhagavad Gita. This will be a Bhagavad Gita class. So, a devotee, when a desire pops up in the mind, he observes it. And he thinks, what kind of desire is this? Is this a material desire or a spiritual desire? What is the difference between a spiritual desire and a material desire? Material desire is a desire to give pleasure to the mind and the senses, the body, which we are not. It's a factory, it's a state of insanity. That's a material desire. A spiritual desire is spiritual desire is a desire to connect with the spiritual energy. Such a person who knows how to connect with the spiritual energy is called a Mahatma. But when the devotee looks, and if the desire is material, then he says, I'm not interested. What benefit do you get from giving pleasure to the body? Some very short satisfaction. That, like eating a pizza. It's 10 minutes. Or ice cream. That, and then the problem comes again. One is hungry. But one does not feel satisfied by doing that. Material desires makes one absorbed in a duality, the duality of this world, of good and bad. What's good for the body, what's bad for the body. Krishna speaks about this duality in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 34, it says, if you are absorbed in this duality, good and bad, or attachment and aversion, then that's a sign you are identifying with the material body and not with your real self. And if you are absorbed in this good and bad, you cannot purify yourself. You cannot make spiritual advancement. But by nature, we have all desires, so many desires. There are things you are good in, right? Things you are bad. Things you like. Things you don't like. That is material conditioning. And it's very strong. Very strong. What does Krishna say about the material energy? Mama Maya Durachaya. Deva Yesa Guna Maya, Mama Maya Durachaya. Very difficult to overcome, Krishna says. Very strong. So, Krishna advised Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, give up this attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. They are paripantina, stumble blocks. But Krishna knows that it's very strong. Therefore, in the next verse, he said, therefore, Arjuna, you should do your duty, but you do it with a spiritual purpose, to please God, to please me. And you should do your duty, not the duty of others. A very important verse in Bhagavad Gita that's mentioned twice. You should do your own duty and not the duty of others. Why is that? We have a spiritual nature and we have a material nature. What is our spiritual nature? We are a spirit soul part and parcel of Krishna, which is the source of consciousness in this body, and the source of desires. And that spirit soul is meant to engage in spiritual activities. But we are covered by a gross and subtle body. And this gross and subtle body begot since birth also a material nature. A material nature. Our likes and dislikes, what we are good in. Everyone can be classified somewhere, either as an intellectual or a man who wants to do business or do agriculture, and or someone who wants to educate others, intellectual, or someone who wants to protect and likes fighting. So Arjuna was a fighter, a warrior. He liked fighting. He was very good in it. So this is called Svadharma. We have two natures in one. Our spiritual nature as a spirit soul, and as a spirit soul we have our duties, our activities, which should be spiritual, connecting with Krishna. And that connection is devotional service. And at the other side, we have the material nature, material Svadharma, which is based on attachment and aversion, likes and dislikes. And it's too strong, we cannot give it up. Especially in the beginning, we cannot give it up. So Arjuna, after hearing that, Krishna said, you should fight, but with a spiritual purpose. You should fight out of love for me. You should follow my instructions. It looks strange. So, fighting out love of God. But one must understand the context of Bhagavad Gita. You have the Pandavas who are pious, and at the other side, you have the Kurus, great aggressors. They try to kill them, they try to disrobe their wife, they try to burn them in a house of flag. They took away their kingdom, which was their inheritance. They were inherited to become the kings. It's in the scriptures. One who steals one's wealth, who burns one's property, who takes away one's wife, they should be killed. They should be punished. Suppose you have a policeman. He goes, policeman from Orlando, and he sees someone breaking in, a thief breaking in a house. And he looks very good and says, I know this person. This person is the son of so-and-so. I know his mother. If I'm going to arrest that person, then he's going to get he's going to get a record of stealing and he will never get a job again. and his mother will suffer from it. That her son has done such a stupid thing. So I'm not going to arrest him. I look at the other side. Is that a good policeman? No. So the ponder was, they had to punish these transgressors. It was their duty. They were military men. So he said to Arjuna, you do your duty, but you do it to please me. For a higher purpose. To please me, you do it without attachment and aversion. Whether you are successful or you fail, you do it because it's your duty. So that's acting spiritually. Krishna had before explained what is acting spiritually in 3:30. He said, you should do your duty without thinking that you are the enjoyer or the proprietor. That's the body concept of life. We are in illusion that we are the body. What's the cause of this illusion? We are a spirit soul. We are not meant to be here. We belong to an eternal atmosphere. But we are here because we forgot Krishna, the source of everything, who controls everything. And because we forgot Krishna, we forgot that we are a part of Krishna. And by that we start to think ourselves God. What's the definition of God? Definition of God, Krishna says, Bhaktam Sagatapasam Sarvlokam Ashlam Sudam Sarvabhutam Khatvam Samtirichyati. He says, I'm the enjoyer of everything. So, I'm the enjoyer of everything. Because I'm the proprietor of everything. Everything belongs to Krishna. Everything comes from him. Was something ours before we took birth? Will something be ours after we leave this body? No. It's only a mental concoction. So you forget Krishna, and then we forget Krishna is the enjoyer, is the proprietor of everything. We think ourselves the enjoyer. We come in this body and we think, oh, it's a gift from God to enjoy. Well, no, it's a gift of God, but not to enjoy. It's to serve him, to connect with him. Getting a body in this material world is a punishment. That's what it is. My Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charan said many times, do you realize this body is a machine to give you pain? That's true. We like to eat because the pain of hunger is there. But then we eat and the pain is gone and we think everything is all right. Nice meal. So we forget Krishna. That's the first illusion. Krishna is everywhere in this material world, in every cell. It's in your heart. Factually, there is only Krishna in this world. It's the intelligence behind everything. It's in your body. In the body you have a lymphatic system, you have a nerve system, a digestive system. But it's all working with intelligence. The intelligence comes from Krishna in the heart. So we forget our position as a part and parcel of Krishna. And then we think ourselves the enjoyer. And then we identify, because we forget Krishna and we want to enjoy. Krishna gives us a body, a material body. And we identify with the body, that's me, and this mind. And then the next step is you think this is mine. Ham mameti. This is mine. I want to enjoy this. This is mine. I paid for it. Property act, mine. That is an illusion. And then the next step is you suffer. From the moment you think something is yours, you start suffering because everything is changing in this world. You have a new car and someone makes a little scratch on it, you feel the pain. If someone comes in and says, oh, a frontal collision between two cars, you will say, yeah, that happens every day, what's the point? But if someone comes in and says, I just saw someone bumping in your car, but that's serious. And you feel pain. Or you have a relationship with someone and it breaks, heartbreak. You are thinking, this was my lover or this was my husband, and it breaks, great pain. That, but as a soul, you cannot have such relationships. It's not possible. Bodily relationships is temporary. That. So yes, and then the fifth illusion is you think I'm going to die because the body dies, but you don't die. The soul is eternal, and the consciousness comes from the soul. Dying is like 9 months, 9 deep sleep, and the problem starts again. That's the reality. So 5 illusions. In Sanskrit, that's in the 3rd canto of the Bhagavatam. Tamas means I forget Krishna. That's ignorance. And then moha, thinking I'm the body. And then mahamoha is thinking this is mine. And then tamisha, you suffer because of this. Then the last illusion is under tamisha. You think at the end of the body I die. But there's no such a thing. You leave the body, that's all. So these are 5 illusions. And so these illusions, we can get rid of it. But Krishna said to Arjuna, this attachment and aversion, you should give them up. And if you cannot give them up, you do your duty as a Kshatriya, but you do it acting as a spirit soul to please God, to please me. And that will purify you. And what's the answer of Arjuna? Arjuna is saying, yes, Krishna, I like to do that, but there's a force that's greater than me, a force which is stronger than me, which forces me to act according to attachment and aversion. And what is the reply of Krishna? It says, yes. Kamaisha kodaisha ratchakuna samudbha masana manapana vityami avarinam. Yes, Arjuna, this force is called lust. and is born of wrath, is born of the mode of passion. Passion means identifying with the body, wanting to enjoy this body. And Krishna says, that covers your consciousness. The source or the symptom of the soul is consciousness. We know that the soul is in the body because there is consciousness. Once the consciousness is out, the soul is out. But this consciousness, our pure consciousness, we are conscious of our real self, which is a part of Krishna, an eternal, separated part. But if from the moment it becomes contaminated with the material modes of passion and ignorance, we start to identify with the body. And we start to become absorbed in this good and bad for the body, and we forget what's good and bad for the soul. And this influence of the material modes is very strong. You have the most dense covering of this lust we find in plants and trees. And Krishna compared it to an embryo covered by the womb, or a lighter covering is the covering of the animals. He compares it like a mirror, and it's covered with dust. If you look in a mirror completely covered with dust, can you see your face? No. So you cannot know who you are. An animal cannot understand that we are not his body. But then the third covering is like fire covered with smoke. And that's the human form of life. Our covering is there, but we have to remove the smoke. We have to remove this passion, because that covers our spiritual intelligence. We have by nature our own intelligence, the soul, but it's covered. Avitam jnanam etine, jnanina nitya varina, kamrupena kantya, duspurana nalinisha. This lust covers our intelligence. And it makes us act as the body, to give pleasure to the body. But that's never satisfied. You will never be satisfied by giving pleasure to the body. It's just not possible. Mick Jagger from the Rolling Stones, he understood at the end of the 60s, I remember. You ain't get satisfaction, he sings. You will not get satisfaction. They did some survey with billionaires. They had all 1 billion at that time. And they asked, what do you want? They said, I want 2 billion. Never satisfied. So Arjuna has heard this. Krishna has said, this lust is the greatest enemy. Arjuna is a military man. He is hearing this word enemy. He said, Krishna, where is the enemy? Where is he? How can I recognize this enemy? Where can I find him and how can I kill him? And Krishna said, it's the enemy is in the body, the mind, and the senses. But how can I kill him, Krishna? Arjuna said, you can kill him by regulating the senses. And then he explains what's regulating the senses. He said regulating the senses means that you understand there are the objects of the senses, everything we see. Higher than the objects are the senses, our sensory perception of this world. Everything, that's everything, but there's more to say than this sensory perception. And then higher than the senses is the mind. The mind is the steering wheel of the senses. And higher than the mind is the intelligence. The intelligence should control the mind. And higher than the intelligence is the soul, which desires. So, Arjuna, if you know that, regulating the senses means that you have to strengthen the intelligence with transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge means how to act as a spirit soul, not as the body. We are the spirit soul. And says you should hear this transcendental knowledge, and then the soul becomes attached and says to, and by that attachment, it pushes the intelligence. You should do that. And the mind and the intelligence instructs the mind to engage the senses in spiritual activities, devotional service. And when you do that, Arjuna, you will be controlled, and gradually this lust will disappear you will become spiritualized. Because when the mind thinks always of Krishna, with the intelligence is filled with transcendental knowledge, how to act as a spirit soul, then they become purified. And therefore, in the next chapter, Krishna speaks about transcendental knowledge, how to act as a spirit soul. Very important chapter. And the following also, but we see the difference. We started with telling that what's night for the common man is day for the introspective sage, and what's night for the introspective sage is daytime for the common man. And that's the difference. How does the common man function? That I give an example that Prahlad Nandamraj always gave to a Sunday feast lecture. That like this is the conditioned soul. I look at my body and I say, oh, I'm a man. And the senses see a beautiful woman. And all the senses say, oh, we become attracted. That the skin said, we want to touch her. The eyes said, I want to see her. And I want to see a little more. And when she speaks, oh, it's very nice. Well, I'm a sannyasi, I should not explain that, but you understand that all the senses, that's by nature made like that. The sense of a man is attracted to a girl and vice versa, also in the other direction. So all that pushes the mind to to satisfy the senses. So the senses say to the mind, please do the needful, that we can get satisfaction. And the mind said, yeah, that would feel good to satisfy the senses like that. Yes, go for it. But then the intelligence said, but what with morality? And the mind says, you old fool, that do something practical. This is old stuff, morality. And the intelligence say, okay. Well, the intelligence says to the mind, you could promise her the sun and the moon, and you could throw some stars, and but be careful, if a strong man just nearby could be her husband. But you could write her a letter that, but don't sign it. Anyway, this is the materialistic way of life, that all these feelings come in, and the mind wants to satisfy the senses who want to touch the girl and embrace the girl, and the intelligence makes suggestions, but the mind overcomes the intelligence, misuses the intelligence for the purpose of sense gratification. So the mind becomes more strong than the intelligence. Emotions overcome the intelligence. And that's the condition. So a liberated soul is different. That a liberated soul knows I'm not a body. And he engages the mind and the senses in the service of Krishna, which is his business of self-realization, as acting as a spirit soul, not a body. And that purifies one. And that's the essence of Bhagavad Gita. To be trained, to control the mind and engage it in Krishna's service. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this mind, he said, Udait Atmanatman, Atmanam Avasadyat, Atmevi Atmanabandhu, Atmevi Uipur Atmana. With the mind, you can liberate yourself, can uplift yourself. That Bandhu Atmatmastasya and Atma Atmanatsata. He said, the mind can be your friend, your best friend, if it's controlled. But the mind is your greatest enemy when it's uncontrolled. We control the mind by engaging it in devotional service. Only way to control the mind. The mind must be engaged. It's like a man, he had a bottle, and in the bottle was a jinn, a kind of spirit. He opened the bottle, and the jinn came out and bowed down before the man and said, I'm your servant. Ask me everything, and I will do it for you. But if you are not engaging me, 1 second, I will kill you. And the man said, clean the kitchen. And the jinn was cleaning the kitchen. And then afterwards he said, oh, clean the bathroom. So I was thinking what I'm going to say if all the rooms are done. Well, when all the rooms were done, then he said to the spirit, now you go outside, you see this tree there? You climb up the tree, you jump to the next tree, you come down, then you go to the next tree, you climb up the tree to the top, you jump to the next tree, you come down. Like that you do all the trees in the forest. And when you're finished, you start again. But that's the message. How to control the mind. You can control the mind by engaging it in Krishna's service, not in the service of your sense gratification. And how to do that, you need transcendental knowledge, how to serve Krishna. Therefore, we need a spiritual master who has done that successfully. And then you always serve Krishna. Yat kavas, yat asnas, yat yos dadas, yat yatapas yasikantya. That goes from mat arpanam. You do everything as an offer to me, Krishna says. You do your work for Krishna. You do your sacrifices for Krishna, charity for Krishna. Whatever you do for Krishna. You offer your food to Krishna. But that's devotional service. How to do that? That's explained in Nectar of Devotion. Very important book. So always engage in devotional service. And what happens? Then you come out of this duality of the body, good and bad. You come to another good and bad. What's good for the soul and what's not good for the soul. That's explained in a book, Nectar of Instruction, and the basic principles of that. How to act as a soul. If you want to know to act spiritually, it's explained there. And by acting spiritually, you become free gradually from this lust. And you start to identify with your real self. You become detached from this world and attached to Krishna. And then you are ready to go back to the spiritual world. So, any question? Yes, please.
Yes, I have a question too. Like, how do we purify or relax the mind from like unwanted thoughts like stress or bad thoughts or like stealing money or unwanted materialistic desires or like worries about like studying for an exam or things like that? Do we do this by chanting regularly or praying to Narasimha or just engaging in devotional service?
Yeah. So, what is the purifying factor that we can purify our mind and intelligence by getting spiritual intelligence? How do you get spiritual intelligence? Krishna explained in 10:10 of Bhagavad Gita. Dadami buddhiyogantam tesham satatayuktaye. Yeah, tesham satatayuktam vacham pitabhukam dadami buddhiyogantam yena upayantite. Yeah, if you serve Krishna with Priti Purvakam, a little love, He's going to give you something, dadami. He gives you buddhi yoga, transcendental intelligence, self-realized intelligence. It's not theoretical. It's realization, suddenly, that you are not a body. And in next verse, he explains how he does that. Tesham evanakapurtam amakyaman samtama nasa jama prabhavastu yanitipana vashvatam. It's in your heart, Krishna. And with the lamp of knowledge, you start to remove your ignorance. Removing the ignorance are these 5 illusions. You remember? Tamas, forgetting Krishna. Moha, thinking that I'm the body. Mamona, thinking that is mine. And then our suffering is removed. And we understand we are not going to die. But that's a gradual process. But why are why is this illusion so strong? Because we have cultivated so many material desires, and the desires to enjoy the body, made plans for many lifetimes. And it became our second habit. But Bhakti Yoga is so strong that it will remove it. It will remove it. Gradually it will. But it's a process. It's very strong. But the principle of devotional service is man-mana, thinking of Krishna. So it's devotional service. When you do service, we do that externally, but internally, devotion, you must think of Krishna, man-mana. And then the purification takes place. It's two things. Internally, devotion, love. Give all your affection for Krishna. Do everything out of affection for Krishna. Then you become purified. So, because when you have Krishna in the mind, Krishna is purifying us from all this material attachment. He's the purificator factor. He's a factor that without Krishna in your mind, it will not happen. Therefore, the devotion is very important, the internal part. But even if you don't have the internal part yet, you do the external part. Brahmananda was one of the first disciples of Prabhupada, and he was at 26 Second Avenue in New York, one of the first disciples. And Prabhupada just explained that the disciple has to bow down before the spiritual master the first time he sees. And Brahmananda said, but I do not feel bowing down. Should I bow down? Prabhupada said, yes, you bow down, the feeling will come. So in the beginning, it may be a little difficult, but you do, and the feeling will come. The devotion will come. The affection for Krishna will come. Okay? Something else? Yes, please.
Oh, I guess with that, whenever you are just doing the externals and you haven't quite developed that internal, how do you keep it from turning into a ritual and actually turn it into something that can develop inside?
Yeah, that's very important. That's a good question. What's very important here is sincerity, wanting to develop this love. And that is what Rupa Goswami says. This lolya, this free to get it. That's the price. You really must want it. And if you don't have the desire to want it, associate with those who have. And that is very important. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
So you explained about material desire and spiritual desire. So and what we hear from acharyas is if we have like unsatisfied desire like materially, then we have to take birth in this material world. So what if we have unsatisfied spiritual desire? How like it works?
Unsatisfied spiritual desire, that's very good. Yeah, because you want to satisfy it. Means you are very eager to serve Krishna. Because, but mostly we don't have that. But if you have that, that's great. Because mostly when we are when our tendency for sense gratification is high, then our desire for Krishna consciousness is low. So that is to become down and the other side is to come up. That and that happens by the process of devotional service. That of course there are spiritualists who wants both. It's called sahaja, but it's not possible. And there are those who want neither, Mayavadis also. But no, we have to become attached to Krishna. And when you become attached to Krishna, a side effect, the Bhagavatam said, you develop natural detachment for the material world, and you develop transcendental intelligence just by becoming attached to Krishna. So that's the business of the spiritual master, to show you how to become attached to Krishna. Yes.
Question around so in our everyday activities, right? When we how do we know that our actions are as per dharma and aligned towards Krishna? Because if I am not, so for example, Arjuna was fighting this war, right? And then he said, like, I don't want to fight against my relatives. And Krishna said, we are dharma. So as an individual, how do I know that my actions are aligned towards dharma? Because my ego has a habit of justifying everything. So I don't want my ego to tell me that this is aligned with Krishna, but I'm not on the right path.
Yeah. Mostly we are confused. We don't know. Beginning of the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna did not know. He was arguing with Krishna. He said, if I kill my relatives, Artha Shastra says it's sinful. That so I'm going to hell. But Dharma Shastra said that aggressors has to be killed. But Arjuna was arguing, no, Artha Shastra is higher. But Krishna was with him. He's the origin of all religion. And the purpose of religion is to please Krishna. It was a bit like you have a policeman who is at the crossroad and there are traffic lights, and the policeman comes in the middle of the crossroad and is regulating the traffic, and is not following the traffic lights. They are different. Arjuna is like coming at the crossroad, and the policeman said, you come. And Arjuna said, no, it's red, I cannot come. So he did not understand that the higher principles of religion are to satisfy Krishna. That is Dharma, real Dharma. Our relationship with Krishna is a relation of love with Krishna. And to satisfy Krishna, if we satisfy Krishna out of love, then we will enjoy spiritually. That's explained. Sometimes people say, yes, life is for enjoyment. And that's also what Vedanta Sutra says. Anandamaya, we are sad. We are meant for enjoyment. But who are we? We are a spirit soul. Spirit soul is meant for spiritual enjoyment. And how to get that spiritual enjoyment is to be connected with the source of everything. Sarva Karana Karanam, Krishna. And Krishna is the source of all spiritual bliss, ocean of bliss, spiritual bliss, Rasa Vaisaha. And if we connect as a spirit soul with the spiritual energy, with Krishna, we are connected with that ocean. And then we get spiritual bliss. Spiritual bliss is different from material bliss or material enjoyment. not really bliss. The spiritual bliss is unending. It's always increasing. It never stops, that enjoyment of the soul. And that's the ecstasy of coming in contact with Krishna. That's much higher. It's because material enjoyment is practically no enjoyment. It's absence of suffering. And it's very temporary. People work and it's Monday, okay, Monday. Tomorrow another day, Thursday. Wednesday, okay, we are halfway. Thursday, some hope is there. Friday, they start to smile. And then the weekend comes, but it goes so quick and it's Monday again. Very short, the enjoyment. And that's like that. It's like eating a pizza and then the problem starts again. So that's called, that material enjoyment. Rupa Goswami says, Chapala Sukha. It's flickering. And it's Bogatyar. A long time, not enjoyment, and then a short enjoyment. But spiritual enjoyment is constant. And that we can get that by our contact with Krishna. In that way. And that is the purpose, to reconnect again with our source. We are not meant to be in this world, because we wanted to enjoy separate from Krishna. And Krishna is so kind, he said, you want that? Okay, but then, because try to understand, this is an arm, a gross arm. Under the gross arm is a subtle arm, and under the subtle arm is a spiritual arm. That Prabhupada says that the spiritual senses are covered by a subtle and a gross body. So we were with Krishna, but we wanted to enjoy separately from him. We wanted to be ourselves the enjoyer and the controller. And Krishna asked us, do you really want that? And we said, yes. Are you sure? He said, okay. You can experience to be Krishna, but the problem is I'm Krishna. So you have to forget me. That's the first thing. We forget Krishna. The second thing Krishna arranged is, you want to enjoy, to be the controller? Okay. But you are responsible for your actions. Every action will have a reaction. And you have to forget your spirit self. So I give you a subtle and a gross body. And here we are, that trying to enjoy for many lifetimes. Good. Should we end? Take as a sign for the Arti. Thank you very much. Shantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Prabhupada Ki.